Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today it is all about beans, runner beans, French beans, dwarf beans, borlotti beans, you name it. We're going to cover it today because it's time. It's time now to start planting out your beans. Now, I've had a few people message me about growing runner beans and should they start them now. So I'm in South Wales, which is around about zone 8B. And now is a perfect time to start planting some up now in your greenhouse or in your polytunnel or on your windowsill. Now my advice would be to use a tray, a module as deep as you can. Now the runner beans love to have a lot of root space, so I tend to use these ones. They're 15 cells from container wise and I'd say they're about 6 inches deep. But you don't need to use these. You can use like kitchen towel rolls cut in half, toilet rolls, things like that, or some nice 9-inch pots. But the deeper the better, because you don't know how long they're going to stay in here because of the frost dates or whatnot, because don't put them out until after your last frost date. So I fill this with compost, and all you simply do is you simply just get your runner bean, check that it's nice and healthy, and just pop it into the compost about 1 inch or so underneath the soil. And then just make sure that you cover it over with some nice compost. Don't treat them too precious, they'll be fine. Give them a nice water. Now do not, and I repeat this, do not sit these in big trays of water, because what will happen is the compost will get too damp and it'll rot off the beans. These are things that you do need to treat a little bit differently. I mean, bottom watering isn't really advised, well, I don't advise it anyway. And I've done that many times before and they've rotted off. Later on, once the plants have grown, fine, you can bottom water and you can put them into trays to let them soak up, because they are very thirsty plants. But when you're starting them off, you want to just give them a nice little water every couple of days. And then within about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, you'll start seeing them surfacing and they'll look a bit like this. They'll come up with a couple of little leaves. Now these are actually dwarf French beans called Safari. These are going to be planted out. I've put them in a shallower one because they have, like I said, they're dwarf, so they don't need as much. And I'll show you now the root system on them. They're taking up all the space now, so these are definitely ready to be planted out. But like I said, I wouldn't be planting them outside in your area if we've not gone past your frost date. These are actually going to be planted up in the polytunnel, so that's why I've done them a little bit earlier. But now is definitely the time to get your beans sorted. So like I said, if you've got like trays like this, pop a bean in. Do not be thinking, oh, I'll put 5 or 6 beans in and then I'll rip them all apart later on. My advice would be put 1 in each cell or 1 in each pot. Now, if you want to put 2 in there and then later on thin out, that's fine. But the germination is pretty good on beans. I've also done some Cobra, which are a French bean. Now, these ones are a little bit smaller cells. These are like root trainers. I find the French beans don't tend to need as much space as the runner beans, because obviously they're a smaller plant. And you'll be planting them out before you know it, honestly. They shoot up here. Now, don't do it too early, though, because don't think, oh, I'll do it now because I've got a few hours spare. I would be doing it about a month before your frost date. You know, I mean, some people direct sow them as well. You can do that. What I tend to do is I tend to do them about a month before I'm going to plant them out, because before long, they'll be all climbing around each other, and you don't want them about 12 inches high and all, and they're all starting to twine around each other, because that's an absolute mess. Now, this isn't a tutorial all about runner beans. We'll be showing you other parts of the garden and other jobs. But I want to tell you all about the pests that runner beans have now. Whether or not it's black fly, I tend to put things like nasturtiums around there because they're drawn towards the nasturtiums rather than your flowers. You don't want a black fly infestation all on your beans. Then there's also slugs. So when you plant them out, I promise you, they love runner beans, French beans. So they will go at them, honestly. If you put them in too early, they will devour them and you'll be so upset about it. So my advice would be to plant more than you need, I promise you. So my pole station outside has got 52 stations, 52 poles going up. And I will definitely be growing at least 70 to 80 runner beans, because I promise you, you'll need those extra ones. And if you've got them later on, you can always use them on around a teepee, a couple of bamboo canes, or a couple of hazelnut branches pushed into the ground, and then they'll twine up there and you've got an extra crop then later on. But make sure you plant more than you need, because I promise you the pests love them. I mean, isn't it like everything? And another little tip is, as well, is that if you plant one, you can also plant a bean to the side of it. And what happens then is the plant will climb up, and if anything happens to it, like a slug, a pigeon, anything really, you knock it off, or the wind takes it off, because what happens is you need to try and do it a week where there's not so much wind as well, because they start climbing all the way up those bean canes. They'll always constantly start knocking off, but I promise you they'll carry on and they'll battle through. Nature finds a way. But if you plant a bean underneath each of your stations, if anything happens to that plant, you've got another one that's coming up just a little bit behind it. So it's always best to have a plan B and a C and a D. Now, if you don't want to have like teepees in your garden and all, and you're going to be doing them in like raised beds, you can do like bush beans. I've actually got a new variety on me this year, which is a dwarf runner bean. I've not seen this before. This is called Hestia. So I'm going to be doing these just to try them. I'm going to put some in a pot, and I'm also going to put some in a hanging basket as well. So I'm actually going to be growing some runner beans in a hanging basket. But like I mentioned earlier, if you want to do like a dwarf French bean, you'll get quite a nice cluster of French beans about a foot off the ground. And my advice would be to use ones like Safari. They're a really good cropper. But yeah, I grow every single kind. And also if you want to do things like borlotti beans, which are a nice speckly colour one, and Greek gigantes, they are huge white beans. And I mean, they got like a nice taste if you put them in like a casserole or stew later on in winter. So I harvest all those as the beans. I wait till the pods all dry out, take them out. You can either keep some then later on to grow next year, or you can keep them in a jar in your kitchen as long as they're dry, and then just pop a few in a stew or a casserole. And I promise you, it'll give it that nice, chunky, meaty texture to a bean. And it also bulks up your meals in the winter. And speaking of storing beans for later on, all your beans or your French beans, keep a few pods to dry out through the season. And then you can use those year after year after year. So it'll save you a lot of money. And another variety that I always grow is called Blauhilde. It's a purple French bean. You do tend to get them later on in the season, like August onwards, but they're high croppers. They're great for freezing. Yes, the purple beans do actually turn green when you cook them, but there is a reason why I picked those as well, not just because I have great harvest from them. The flowers are beautiful on there. You've got nice purple vines all the way going up through, and the pods are easier to harvest as well. So if I'm going to advise you to do a nice French bean this year, a climber, try Blauhilde. And some varieties of runner beans for you to try is Czar. I'll pop it on the screen here now, have a look at that one. That's a high yielding crop. You don't tend to get so many strings on them. I get so many crops from them. And another one would be Polestar as well. Try that one. There is many varieties of runner beans, but the two that I would suggest you try in this year is Czar and Polestar. Give them a go, and yeah, good luck. Now, if you've got a polytunnel, my advice would be to use a floating shelf. Keep them off the ground. The rodents will, I promise you, they will come in, they will take out all those beans and run off with them, and then you're back at square one. So keep them safe. If you haven't got a floating shelf, make sure you use like a cover like this, like a cloche. Pop it on the top and put a house brick on top or something just to keep the weight down. And fingers crossed the rodents won't touch them. Or grow them over in your house and then bring them over later on. But I like to keep them up high, out of the way, so that they're like growing nice and safe, and no pests will bother them up there. So these are my bean structures. I basically just got like an A-frame, and I put a few diagonals as well, because when the wind comes through later on in the season, they are actually pushed into the ground. I will cable tie them on. You can use string if you want to, but my advice would be to use some kind of cable tie or wire, because the birds come across and take all the strings out later on in the season, and they're lasting you on. So the cabbages I plant out are definitely benefiting from this cooler weather and the rain that we're getting intermittently. The broad beans now are perked up, the beetroot and the shallots have settled in, the white consomme, the Savoy cabbage, and also the pixie cabbage. Now, I had a few people message on Instagram about the pixie cabbages. You can get the seed over in the UK, but thank you so much, Ali, for sending me the seed. But they were wondering why they were planted so close compared to the others. And it's because they are, obviously by the name pixie, they're quite small, condensed round cabbages. So I'm hoping, and I've spaced them out purposely like this. I put 3 rows of 4 and then 1 row of 3 to kind of see which one works better. Now, if I can fit 4 in, perfect. If not, I'll go to the 3 next year. But if these grow and they're successful and they're a decent size, these could be something that I'll add to my list for future years. So most of the fig and olive plot now is actually done. You know, it's all been weeded, it's all sorted. Most has been planted out. We've still got a few beds free, but I don't know where everything's going to go. This plot might have a little bit of a rejig next year. I might move these beds so that they're a bit more closer together and straighten them up a little bit. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm trying to fit as many beds as I can into the plots, and you'd think having 2 plots, they're not huge plots, but they're decent size. You think I'd have enough, but I like to grow a lot of food for my friends, my family and myself to store over autumn and winter as well. So yeah, it's definitely food for thought. So I've come inside because it started to rain, which is okay. It means that it's brought me back indoors. I've got plenty of jobs through here. Even though we've got the automatic watering system going on, there is still some areas like the mini little greenhouse setup that I've got at the front of the polytunnel. That's not set up, and that's only because it's temporary. So I don't want to set a line up there. I know there's never going to be no plants there that I need watering. Well, there's no plans for it anyway, but we'll see. But I've also planted up the dwarf beans into this little trug here, this little planter. I managed to get 2, 4, 6, 8 into there. Hopefully they'll stay in here now and we'll get an earlier crop, and the remaining will go out later on. It's starting to fill up again because I've done a lot of potting on, pricking out. The basil, that's coming on great now. I mean, this is staying inside the mini greenhouse because it likes that bit of warmth as well, especially on those cold nights, so I'm keeping it in there. The temperatures have definitely changed now. I mean, it's starting to get cooler at night. Has our spring finished already? Who knows? But there's some good news. I've noticed the strawberries now are starting to turn from flowers to fruit. They're already starting to show so many strawberries. I'm really excited. I now need to pot on the sunflowers. There's 2 big trays here all ready to be potted on. I'm doing Little Leo, which I always do because of my nephew Leo. I'm doing one called Little Dorrit, sunflower, giant Russian, teddy bear sunflowers, which I always do. I love those little teddy bear ones. They're quite fluffy, so if you haven't sown any sunflowers, there's still time. Those teddy bear ones, they're not like a normal traditional sunflower. They're more like this big yellow puff of floral something. I'm also doing lemon cutie sunflowers, Italian whites, the mystery sunflower for Linda's sunflower challenge. I'm also doing a purple sunflower, that was also off Linda. A pink and blue sunflower, I'm not sure there's such a thing, but Linda gave me those as well, and there's 1 or 2 of those popping up. Red sun, which I always do, velvet queen, ruby eclipse, Pacino gold, MS Mars, summer beauty, and color parade, which I always do as well. I mean, I like those rustic orangey colors as well. So yeah, there's quite a few sunflowers this year, and I can't pop them up because, can you believe it, I have probably gone through hundreds of pounds of compost, and I've run out. I've got like half a bag left for a few things that I want to sow, but yeah, I need to order more compost. I'm also thinking about using the second Belfast sink that I've got. I did want to put it in the potting shed, but I'm hoping I can get another one. But I'm thinking I could do with a sink in here connected to the harvest system for soaking the seed pots in as well, you know, if I want them to have a bottom feed, especially when I'm going to be ready to prick it out. Maybe I'll do it this year at the end of this week, but if not, I'll probably do it for next spring. I'm not sure yet. It'll be one of those projects I definitely want to do, but we'll see what I'm going to do with that. I'm not quite sure what to do for the best because I don't want it to become a massive feature and then I don't use it. I'm only using it for the start of spring. So yeah, I'm thinking about putting a sink in the polytunnel. I suppose I could put a big pot in it then once I don't use it, you know, through summer, but it won't be long before all this will be out and the tomatoes be in, and they're growing really, really well at home. I'll mention my tomatoes when I start planting them out, but I've got so many different varieties again this year, and a few that I have knocked off this year that I didn't think I was going to knock off, which was the Brad's Atomics Great, I haven't done them this year, which is strange for me, but they just lost their flavour last year, and a lot of other people said the same thing, so maybe they've just been bred out wrong. And yeah, but plenty more to try. I also need to find some space for a loofah plant, whether or not it stays in here or into the greenhouse. I would ideally like it in here because it takes up quite a lot. Maybe I'll put it at the front of the polytunnel, right over the arch, you know, like an archway at the front of the doorway. I'm not sure, but I need to find home for that as well. I've managed to knock down as many tomatoes as I can. I'm going to put about 30 tomato plants in here, 15 either side, maybe squeeze a few more in buckets and stuff. But I desperately need to do my potatoes now, so I need to go get some more compost. I'm going to use all the compost that I used last year in the buckets, regenerate that by adding some potato feed in. I'm going to be using blood, fish and bone, and also some potato and vegetable fertilizer. This is organic. I'll add a few sprinkles of that into the buckets as well. So don't think you've got to replenish the compost every single year. You don't have to. After this year, maybe I'll use it for carrots, or I'll pop it into the compost bin and then regenerate it by adding some feed into it, and maybe we'll use it on the beds. I'm not sure yet, but I desperately need to finish off the potatoes, because otherwise I'm going to be too far in the season, and not only that, I might run out of the buckets, because I've got 4 buckets in here, and also the Charlottes in the bed out there, which will come later on. So I desperately need to get those potatoes in very, very soon. And I mean, today's probably the perfect day because it's quite drizzly, but I haven't got enough compost, because I do want to add a little bit of new compost or some farmyard manure into the buckets as well. So that's on my list to do. Maybe I'll pop to the garden centre sometime today or tomorrow, but we'll see. And also I want to start preparing these beds, so I'm going to go through again, dig out any remaining bindweed in here in the next couple of days. Hopefully that'll knock it back a little bit more for the season, and then I'll just continue doing that until it gives up. But I want to then put a layer of cardboard down and then a compost on the top, and then these beds then will be ready for the shallots, the leeks, the Zabroon shallots by seed, and also the summer onions by seed as well. So there's a lot of onions this year. Do I need all these onions? Probably not, but I don't want to waste the seed onions, because there's a test this year to see which ones are better, the summer onions by sets or the summer onions by seed, and then later on in the season then I can decide which ones I'm going to do for next year, and it'll be either one. I'll either be growing from seed from now on, or I'll be going back to sets. So that's the plan with those. And this area here still hasn't been finished. I mean I've done a massive amount of work on this plot already this season, but I've still got a good 6 by 14 foot area here that I need to dig out, and I'm thinking about putting another bed down here for this year. We shall see, because I actually haven't got enough beds, believe it or not, for all the things I've sown. I mean, shock horror. So which would take it to about by here. I've still got room then as well to decide what I'm going to do with this shed. Take it down or do something with it. I'm thinking it might be good for storage, leaving it open and then having all shelves in there as well to like dry out any ends, and also to store things like my little trolley and stuff. I'm not sure yet. These kind of jobs are not a priority right now, because I want to make sure I've got enough growing spaces, because I don't want to leave those plants in their little stations, in their modules for too long when they need to go out. I've still got a couple of weeks, so I'm okay. The garlic's doing okay. There was suspected allium leaf miner in one of the garlics. It started to twist up a little bit, so I pulled all that out. Hopefully they'll be okay. This garlic's doing okay. The winter onion as well, another bed for onions. These were the overwintering ones. Again, there's trials to see whether or not I'm gonna continue doing these, whether or not I want to waste this space in autumn and the start of spring for winter, overwintering onions, or leave this bed so that I can just replenish all this area. So the plan is that I want to close down one of the allotment plots for winter, make sure everything over here that's going to grow over winter, such as, you know, overwintering cabbages if I do them outside, Brussels sprouts, you know, purple sprout and broccoli and all those things will be in these 6 beds here, so that I can close down the other allotment plot. I still go on there obviously, but it means that all those beds will be fed, ready for spring, and I can just focus on this little area here for winter. That's the plan. The water barrel over here is actually empty. I thought there was something wrong because it wasn't collecting water. I had a little look and there's actually a leak. I fixed this barrel last year and over winter is obviously split, so I need to fix that. Most of the alliums now, the flower bed on the fig and olive plot, I actually weeded and it took a bit of weeding. I broke my favourite trowel as well, which I've had since I started the channel, since I started having an allotment actually on this site, and it snapped. So I was quite annoyed about that. Well, I was quite upset about that because you get quite sentimental about your tools, you know, especially when you've had a long time. So I need to buy a new trowel. So if you have any suggestions, pop it in the description. I have got another one, which is like a Wolfgarten one, but I want to get a nice wooden, you know, nice traditional trowel. So yeah, most of the alliums now are being planted up in that bed. I have stopped because it started raining, but most is in. I need to now hoe over these beds, definitely take out the sprouts which have gone to flower, and get that bed sorted as well. So I've popped over because I've been losing sleep over these mangetout peas. Let's go on to the other plot and I'll show you the dilemma that I've been having over some mangetout peas. So the plan was always to put them on this trellis here, this framework that I had last year, and I used it for runnerbeans last year, and it didn't do the best because it was going across this area here, shaded out the new potatoes. The runnerbeans didn't do very well on there, so I thought I'd put it here. And I thought I'd put the mangetout peas down here. I thought, oh, look great. I mean, they're looking fantastic in there. Then I looked at all the crops that I've got and I need another bed. I need another bed really. And I thought, am I really using a lot of space here? I mean, this is a good 3 foot by maybe 5 foot long bed, just for some mangetouts and some blauhilders on this side, which I could put around a teepee or around another little A-frame on the end. And then I came up with this idea. I thought about building one in here, and then I thought, okay, how am I going to get in between? And then would the shade up the lettuce too much? They don't mind a bit of shade, but it gets quite dark there then in the, you know, in the afternoons. Then I thought about putting them across here. Now this is going to be for the calabash later on, but I've decided if I free up this space, I'd rather fill this whole bed full of calabash because it is one of my favourite cabbages. Now you're probably thinking, yes, you've got cabbage here, there. Let's not talk about that. Yeah. So then I thought, you know, could I put it across there? And then I thought, okay, is that going to shade up the plants that I put in here? Then how would I put a net over the whole lot of it? So I scrapped that idea. Then I thought about putting one across here. Now there is new potatoes in there, Charlottes, but I thought I could make like a little small raised bed just on the front here because this is quite a wide path. And then I thought, oh, that's just asking for a bit of trouble later on when I'm digging up the Charlotte potatoes, or you know, would a shade out and hide this area over here, which is all the alliums. And then it dawned on me what I'm going to do. The fruit cage. Now this would probably solve all my problems, even if it's just for this year until I finish a couple of more beds on the other plot for next year. I've got this area here. Now I'm thinking I might put a little narrow raised bed about 6 foot here, and I won't need to net them either. I mean, pigeons won't be able to get to them. I mean, they pretty much self-pollinate themselves, but I'm sure bits and bobs will fly in here anyway, but they'll be protected in here. And yeah, I won't have to worry about the peas. So I think I'm going to build a nice little raised bed there now, and we can get the peas out. Now, I know it's a fruit cage, but it can be used for other things as well. I mean, I've got plenty of things in here, so why not put the mangetouts in here just for this year? Let's go. And before I do that, I want to say thank you so much to everyone. I actually hit 1 million views on my channel this week. I was really shocked to find this out. I had the notification and I was like, what? But yeah, I've hit 1 million views, so thank you so much to everyone who's watched my videos, subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel, comment, like. But yeah, I've hit 1 million views on the channel. I never thought when I started this channel about 3 years ago that I'd even get 1,000 views, and 1 million views. That to me, that was, well, I'm shocked, but I'm also very, very grateful, and thank you so much everyone who has put up with me for the last 3 years and have watched all my videos. And so thank you so much to everyone who has watched my channel, and here's to the next million. And yes, Linda's already talked to me about a bottle of bubbly and some caterpillar cake, and we're probably going to celebrate it. I mean, any excuse for us to get the bubbly open. So I'm going to build this pea frame bed now, which is going to take a couple of minutes. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to show you a few slides of the allotment that I took today and yesterday, of some of the ideas that I've taken. Now, if you've got an allotment site, have a little walk around every now and again, because I promise you, there is so many different people on your site and you'll take ideas from them all. But these are some of the amazing ideas that I've seen on the site, which I'm going to take forward and maybe use on my plot. So enjoy. So it's the moment of truth now. I've never done this before, but we shall see. Now, I've seen this happen many times where people struggle to do it, but fingers crossed this works. Come on. Now, the idea is that you don't damage the root structure too much and they all come sliding out into the trough that you've left. I've left like a furrow here. Yes, look at that. Perfect, absolute perfect. And then all you do then is just push the compost up against there and hopefully they'll all bed in nice. Now I've got a bit of room at the front here which I'll probably use for like lettuces and whatnot, but I am pleased with that. Now I've got a nice plant food here, a nice nitrogen based plant food by Envy to give it a good boost now, and that should hopefully send it up the cage. Now all this is just a couple of canes and some mesh, some sturdy mesh, and that'll be perfect. They'll all now climb up that. We'll now have peas in summer. But like I said, now this is now protected from the pigeons. I think this will do great in here, and later on then if I decide that I don't want to keep this in here for next year, I can just remove this and then just bark over it again. But for this year, this is where the peas are going. I'm Danny and this is Grow Up.